Hey guys, Matthew Marr with MorrowInvest.com. Today we're going to be talking about flipping houses again. I continue to have people that come to me with money in hand and they want to flip houses, and there's a lot that goes into flipping a house, and so we're going to take some time today and really dig in. Most of the videos we do are 2 to 6, maybe even 10 minutes long, but this one's going to be a little bit longer. I'm going to go into some detail about how I look at properties, where I look for them, what type of properties I'm interested in buying, and how we go about running the numbers on all those things. I also want to tell you a little bit about me. I have people that are asking me about my mentorship program and what I bring to the table, and so I want to go over a little bit about who I am and a little bit about my history and how I came to this point in my career. And then we'll get to talking about flipping houses. So a little bit about me and how I came to this point in my career. I have a business degree from Auburn University. I then went on, after graduation, I went on to manage my family's catering company, which at the time was the largest off-premise catering service in Central Alabama. I then went on to become a financial advisor at my Series 7 and my 63. And what those two licenses meant were that I could sell any financial product, an IRA, a 529, a 401k, individual stocks, insurance, everything. This was right after 9/11, and so I was young, and so it was very hard selling financial products to retirees when I was only 22, 23 years old. So I made the majority of my money selling long-term care insurance, life insurance, disability through AFLAC and those type of programs. I became a licensed broker for the state of Alabama. I also became a continuing education provider, so I actually trained other agents, and they got their continuing education credits in part through one of my programs. I then moved on to several other opportunities in sales. I've always been an outside sales type person. I'm always looking for what makes the most return for the least amount of work. I tell people I'm not lazy, I'm just efficient. I would like to get the most amount of return for the time that I'm going to be spending on any given source. I actually stopped being a financial advisor in 2006 and went back to actually owning my lawn service. So here I was, highly educated, and I was cutting grass. Well, I made more money cutting grass, and I know that might sound funny to some people, but instead of convincing people why they needed to have an IRA or a mutual fund or an annuity or whatever, I was able to get $45 an hour cutting grass, and at the time I was still young enough to do it. So I still cut grass a couple of days a week, and then I would do insurance. What's funny is that people would discount what you were because they say, oh, well, you cut grass and therefore you didn't know what you were doing, which is kind of funny because a lot of the times I could make more money. I could make $500 or $600 in a day, and that was more than those folks were making. They would take all week to make that. So as you continue to put tools in your tool belt and get more education, which I continue to do, 2006 I bought my first rental property. I read a book by Robert Allen called No Money Down in the 2000s, and talked about no money down owner financing. So I did that, and then I got a few properties under my belt and learned a lot of things the right way, and I learned a lot of things the wrong way. And I found that there's really not classes for this. This is not stuff they teach in school, and so you really have to pay for some good knowledge. And a lot of that just comes from doing it the wrong way. You want to know which flooring to put down. Well, you got to put down some different floorings to figure those things out. So the learning curve is expensive and takes some time. But one of the best things you can do is to pay a mentor. Now, I know a lot of people have been burned by paying people to pay for a mentor. Sometimes these people are just out selling a program and they don't really answer your questions, and there's some really negative information out there on some individuals. But there are some people that truly have a heart for helping people, and I found that in the Smith companies. So James Smith and Ryan and Jamie, his son and daughter-in-law, had a company under the Smith Companies. They trained people on all types of real estate investments. So whether it be a billboard or a strip center, a mobile home park, an assisted living facility, whatever, they showed you how to run the numbers and how they looked at properties. It's probably the best $10,000 I've ever spent. It really rocketed me to a new level. So I basically live a retired lifestyle. I get to invest in properties that I want to invest in with people that I want to invest with. I don't have to punch a clock anymore, no 9 to 5. It's just me and my laptop and getting to look at properties and making good money. So with that said, let's go into what it takes to flip a house, what areas you should be looking in, whether you should be looking at short sales, REOs, FSBO, what it is we need to look for and what areas we need to look for. You know, there's property all over the country for sale, but that doesn't mean that that's a property that you want to buy. So let's go through some property analysis and see what real investors look at when they run the numbers on properties. All right, so as we get started here, you need to know the difference between a good deal and a bad deal. And you need to understand that one bad deal can destroy your future. You know, we're talking about a lot of money here. And if you're using investor money or a loan that is a full recourse loan, you are gambling with your livelihood, your family's livelihood. You're putting your children's future on the line to flip this house, right? So you need to learn to run the numbers. The numbers are what are going to save you. You need to get away from, oh, I've got this gut feeling, or oh, I've got this buddy who's got an inside track, oh, I know this realtor who knows this special secret information that nobody knows. You need to let the numbers work for you. Okay? If you can learn to do this, and if you'll just do what I'm telling you to do, you will save yourself so much heartache. Look, a little bit of information, you can get yourself in a lot of trouble. You go watch a few YouTube videos, you watched your favorite HGTV, you've gone and picked out your favorite color palette at Home Depot or Lowe's, and you are so excited about flipping a house because you can't wait to put granite countertops and all this kind of stuff in a house. Well, have you run the numbers yet? Do you know if that's even a good area? So as we're continuing here, you're going to need, because I get sent stuff daily. People send me stuff all the time that they say, oh, Matthew, here's a great house for sale. This would be such a great property. Oh, I've just got a feeling about this. Oh, I've got a feeling, I think. Okay, well, I will always say, what are the numbers? Tell me about that zip code. Tell me what the average person in that zip code earns a living. What's the average household size in that zip code? What are the average days on market? Can you show me comps from a realtor that show me how long those houses sit? Are they new houses or are they old houses? What's the competition, right? So these are things that we're going to go into detail about that all go into spreadsheets. Now, if you're not a spreadsheet person and you don't really like the numbers, you feel like you're the demolition guy, right? You've got the money and you want to knock down a wall, and you see all those investor shows and Property Brothers and flipping this house, and man, they get in there on demolition day, and the first thing they do is pull out a big sledgehammer and start taking down a wall, or they get a crowbar and start pulling up the floor. That is not real estate investing. That is a TV show. That is for entertainment. They're going to pull back a wall. Oh, there's damage. Oh, you know what? All those shows are entertainment. And myself, as well as a couple of other mentors that I know, have been offered positions on those shows, and they just want you to be entertaining. They just want drama, and that's not what investing is. There's going to be some properties that you flip and you never even touch the house. Those are the best ones. You make $5,000, $10,000, $50,000 off a property, and you haven't done anything to it. Some of them you don't even see. So those are the properties where you're going to do this on a regular basis. Now, if you've got $30,000 to $50,000 and you're thinking in your head, man, I need to find, I personally only have $30,000, so I've got to find a place that's $30,000, and I want to flip a house that's $20,000 or $30,000. That's not a good idea. What you're doing is gambling. If you're putting all of your nest egg, all of your extra money onto an investment and hoping and praying that it happens, that is gambling. You would do just as well to go down and place your bet on black or red at the local casino. Okay, so we're gonna look at numbers, and those numbers are going to tell us what is a good investment and what is not a good investment. All right, so part of this comes with you need to have your goals set before you ever go look at a property. You need to know what it is you're trying to accomplish. How much money makes you happy? Is it $5,000? Is that what you're looking to make? Are you looking to make $10,000? Are you looking to replace your income each year? Right? Are you doing this as part-time fun, or are you doing this as a full-time investment? This is your retirement. Are you doing this inside a self-directed IRA, or are you doing this where you're going to be paying capital gains on the properties? How many properties can you flip before you get dealer status? Right? These are important things. Do you have your business structure set up yet with your LLC or corporation? How are you going to be taxed on this money that you're planning to make? Where is the money coming from? Okay, so let's dive into some of the things that I use that I've learned through Gary DeBose and Jamie and Ryan Smith and James Smith and some others that have helped to teach me a better way of doing investing when it comes to real estate. Matthew, I want to be a real estate investor, but I don't have any money. Matthew, I've gone through a divorce. I've gone through bankruptcy. Matthew, since 2001 and 9/11, since 2008 and the economic housing crash, all my extra money has been eaten up, and I just do not have the money to invest. I don't know what I'm going to do. So let's go over a few things, ways that you can fund your real estate habit that you want to have, because you want to buy a property and you want to flip it because you've seen these TV shows and you think that real estate is a great investment, which it is if you know what you're doing. Okay, so some of these people are not going to understand. These are for advanced people. I would not suggest, let me say this very clearly, I would not suggest that a novice or the average person take advantage of the first three, that I have listed here. If you pull money out of your IRA, out of your Roth IRA, or out of your 401k, you will have large penalties and tax consequences if it's before your 69.5 birthday. So you need to make sure, I'm sure if you go to your financial advisor, they're going to tell you don't do this. Okay. Now, one of the things you should look into is a way to invest in real estate inside your retirement account, which is a self-directed IRA. There are lots of self-directed IRA companies, and that way you can not pay capital gains taxes, which is huge. That's the highest tax bracket you could be in. This will allow you to not only have flips, but you could have rental properties, making you a lot more return a lot of times than what mutual funds and IRAs, the different mutual funds are giving you. So you as a person can a lot of times make 20, 30, 40, 50, 100% return on your money in a very short period of time. And it's very doable if you know what you're doing and if you treat this like a business, because that is what this is. This is a business. Okay, so all of those are kind of lumped together. Let's skip down to number 5. Everybody is traditional financing. Everybody understands when they want to go buy a house that they're going to go to a mortgage company or a bank, right? You're going to go in there. One of the reasons why I don't like doing this is because the banks what happens is the banks are given the money to loan out. And part of the prerequisite of them giving you this money is they have to verify that this is a good property. Now, if this is for your personal home, it's not that bad at all. They'll leverage it and everything. But they don't want to do flips. They want you to stay in this long term because they want all that interest. That's how they make their money. They also do not want to do non-owner occupied investment properties. That is not what the bank is in business to do. They want long-term income. So they don't want to do flips. Okay, so for you to come to the bank and say, hey, I want a line of credit, or this is what I'm planning on doing, you are going to jump through so many hoops to do that, and then you are limited in what kind of properties you can buy, because more than likely these are federally backed loans. These are not in-house loans. These are federally backed loans, and so they're going to have a lot of rules attached to what you can and can't buy with that money. And so you're going to be limited in your ability to flip properties. There's also credit cards and lines of credit. I know to some of you this might sound insane that you would put a house on a credit card, but a lot of people ran their business this way. They'd go to Home Depot and have a $10,000 Home Depot card, do all the repairs on a house, and then flip it. And then when the house flips, just pay the card off. So it might sound crazy, but credit cards and lines of credit are not a bad idea. The line of credit part of that is, a lot of times you could use the equity in your home to do an equity line of credit or some other type of line of credit, and that will get you the money that you need. The next place you're going to want to look, it is a very easy and natural thing to think, I'm going to look at my friends and at my family. And these people are going to have my back. They love me. They care about me. They're going to be passionate about the things that I'm passionate about. And so, man, my brother, my cousin, my dad, my mom, whatever, has this money that they can invest with me. And we're going to go 50-50 partners. Let me tell you from personal experience, I know you've heard the saying, don't do business with friends and family. This is not a good way to do business. Not at all. You are going to cause yourself way more stress because you're going to get in arguments about the most nitpicky things, about the color of the paint and whether to do pine straw or whether to do pine chips, where to buy, what to buy, how to buy. And then these families are family and friends. Money can get in the way of relationships. It really can. And so I would encourage you to absolutely 100% stay away from doing business with family or friends unless you have your business set up properly and you are running it as a business. Even then, partnerships are very difficult sometimes because you have different ways. We interpret information differently. We feel passionately about different items. Now I know a lot of people where a relationship works really well in this particular type of investing is where the husband or wife is a realtor and then the other spouse is a contractor. And so you have one that is out finding the buyers and getting a commission on selling the house, and then you have somebody else that's building. There's lots of examples of people doing that. But I would encourage you, if you're thinking, oh man, I found this property, and your first person is you're going to go and ask a family member for their nest egg, and you've got this great idea. It's not a great idea. I did this, and I went to my father, and he helped me with my first property, but it causes stress. All right, and lastly, the thing that is the best way for you to do your investing, in my opinion, is OPM. This is other people's money. These are investors, and if you get with a good investor, they are going to be unbiased. They are going to unbiasedly look at those numbers, and they're going to go down the spreadsheet, and they don't have to see the paint choice you chose. They're not going to have to see they're not going to actually physically have to go to the house and open the door and get a feel for the neighborhood, because they have done enough investing that they can look at the numbers, they can look at the data that is provided for them, and they can tell you whether or not that's a good deal. If you can get in with a good investor, this will make your life so much easier and so much faster. When you have the ability to call up an investor and say, I've found another one, and the after repaired value is going to be $150,000. I need $80,000 to buy it. We're going to put $20,000 in it. These are the list of repairs. That's $100,000. Our after repaired value is $150,000. We'll split the rest, or whatever participation in profits you might pay them a certain amount of interest while you hold their money, and then split the profits. You might do 40-60, 30-70, it doesn't matter how you split up the money, but they are going to say, yep, everything looks great, and they'll wire you the money. See, with a bank, they're going to say, well, what's your credit score? What's your business credit scores? What kind of property do you have? What other collateral can you put up? We're going to need to see 2 years tax returns on your business. We're going to need to see two tax year return on your personal. We're also going to need you to personally sign for this, and we're a full recourse loan. If the loan goes bad, we want to come after you. Okay. Whereas an investor, they're going to set it up and they're going to let the investment speak for itself. See, when you buy that $100,000 house for $80,000, they have multiple outs, and they know if that place is worth $150,000, could they sell it for $80,000 to get their money back quickly? Sure, they could. So quickly, before we ever find the property, we're going to have our exit strategies set up, and these are all things that you're going to want to look at once we find a property. Our goal obviously is to flip it, and we need to know how fast we want to flip it. Most of the time you want to flip a property within 90 days. There's a new 90-day rule on flipping properties, but you want to have that as close to that 90-day mark as you possibly can, because you want to not only get the money back to the investor, get his interest back, but you want to get the money in your pocket as fast as you can so that you can go and do another property, correct? So as we're looking at this, though, as you're looking in the area, one of the places that I utilize that I was turned on to by Gary DeBose is bestplaces.net. Bestplaces.net. You can do research on any given zip code in the country, and it gives a ton of information. And one of the things it'll give you is what the average rental area is like. And we like to think that that's at least 30%. So that means about every third house is a rental property. And that's good, because if you can't sell it when you think you're going to sell it, you need to have another exit strategy, and that might be that you have to rent it for a year or two if you don't pick the area properly. Another way is lease option. This is a rental agreement with the option to buy, and this will entail getting some money given down. They might give $2,000, $3,000, $4,000, $5,000, $10,000 down, as much as you can get, honestly. And that will go towards the purchase of the house, and that option to buy might disappear after a year, maybe 2 years at the most. And so it would be a regular rental agreement with the option to purchase the property, which is, of course, what you're trying to do. And a lot of times that'll happen if you have your business set up where you help qualify people that maybe their credit is not so great, and they haven't been able to be pre-approved by traditional financing. And so you're going to help them and apply. A lot of times you can apply just the down payment. Sometimes when I would do it, I would apply not only the down payment, but I would give them a portion of the rent they paid me each month toward the balance of the property, and then help them with a local bank or mortgage lender that would work with them in their credit. And then when their credit gets, hopefully within that 2 year or less period, their credit gets to where they can purchase the property. That way they're already living there. They want the property. You're trying to help them improve their credit. This is a great strategy if you want to learn about lease options. And then one of the ways that a lot of investors use is just wholesaling. They use what's called an assignment of contract. Now, bank loans are not assignable, and we can talk about that on another time. But basically, you have a contract on a property, and you can assign that contract to someone else that's going to purchase the property. And a lot of times you can back out of the way for a couple of $100 all the way into the thousands. Imagine that same deal we just mentioned where the house is worth $150,000 and you can get it for $80,000. Well, what if you could get that house for $50,000? So say you've got that house under contract for $50,000, and you know that the next investor down the line would happily pay $75,000 or $80,000 for that property, and there would still be plenty of room for them to put their $20,000 in, making it $100,000, and there's still $50,000 sitting on the table. This is a great way, and a lot of investors utilize this strategy of wholesaling. Because if you could have had the inside track to get that $150,000 property at $50,000, then what that allows you to do is wholesale it to someone else, and you just made $25,000-$30,000, and you never touched the property. You literally assigned that contract to the next investor, and that investor, there was still money left on the table for them to make $50,000. A lot of people want to get all the money they can, but you know what? If you're willing to help others achieve their goals too, it is going to make your business a whole lot easier. If you will leave some money on the table for your contractors and for the other guys, make some money. Make them money. You want to make your investors. You want to pay your investors well. Don't be stingy with the returns. If you will be good to that person that's giving you money, and just lavish them with not only interest but give them extra, they will gladly say, "When's the next one?" and hand you that money again. Now let's talk about how you find your location. Most people are going to look where they live. I mean, that is just a natural thing. But there's places for sale all over the country, and that in no way means that you should buy your house there, especially when you're thinking about where should you invest. Now, this becomes a little tricky because there are a lot of mentors that teach building your investing team and having people do things for you from afar. I have found that the only way finding bird dogs and finding people to do this is if you're the money person. That way, if you're the financier of the project, then it's a lot easier to do from a distance. But if you're the person that's trying to find the property and get financing and do the contracting and all that kind of stuff, that is very hard to do from a distance. So one of the first things you're going to do is just look around and see if there's opportunity around you. Now, there are places in the country that are booming and are doing great, and then there's places in this country that are not doing great and are just not good areas for flips. There's places, for sale everywhere. And depending on how you have your business set up and depending on which type of flipping you're trying to do, it may or may not work. If you're looking at some properties, it might, you might do your entire business on wholesaling. Or there might be another business where renovating homes and flipping them at full retail price to retail buyers is something you're able to do in that area. It just depends on where you are. So one of the things you're going to do is you're going to go to bestplaces.net, and I have another video. If you'll go through the YouTube videos and look at one of the flipping videos, I go over in detail the numbers that you're going to use in order to help set your criteria when you're looking on bestplaces.net to help you figure out what it is you're trying to buy, where it is you're trying to buy, what kind of exit strategies you're going to have. And those things are very, very important. So now you're at bestplaces.net. You have your criteria and it's set. You know exactly what you're looking for, and this is going to keep you out of trouble because when people bring you deals and say, "Oh man, I got this great deal on this thing," you are going to be able to measure it against your own criteria, and if it is not in your wheelhouse, you can say no. And I think that's a good thing to say no, because you're going to be, especially if you start doing well, the better you do, the more opportunities are going to come your way. So the more money you make, you start doing this on a regular basis, people from your friend group, your church group, they're going to start saying, "Hey, I know this guy. Hey, I've got this property. I've got this property." And you're going to need to say, "That's not something that I do," or "That is something that I do." And then very important, when you talk about building your investing team, if you're going to do this as a hobby, you might be doing the painting, you might be doing the contracting yourself, and all those kind of things. But if you're going to do this as a business and do these properties on a regular basis, you're not trying to get another job. You don't want a job. Now if you enjoy painting and stuff, that's great. You can do it if you like. If you think that you're going to get some sweat equity, that's great. But the reality is that if you're the real money is made if you're the person that is out finding those deals. Let somebody else paint it, and while they're busy painting it for a week or 2 weeks, you're already finding the next deal. You already have the next deal lined up before that one ever even goes to closing. Okay, so that is how you're gonna have things in the pipeline, they call it. You want to have deals lined up. Okay. One of the most important things if you're going to be flipping and you're gonna need a good realtor. I would tell you to work with the best. I know you're going to have that friend, you're going to have that family member, you're going to have that person at church, but you need to say, this is a business. So you need to look at that top 10 list that they put out and say, you need to interview these people. How many houses have you sold this year? And it's your right to choose whatever realtor you want. And I guarantee you, if you say, look, my goal is to sell 10 houses, I want to flip 10 houses this year, they're intimidated by that. Maybe you need to find a different realtor. You shouldn't be ashamed at all to ask these realtors why they should use you. Why are you choosing this particular person? So make sure that you do the interview process fast and well, because they are going to be representing your property, and you want them. A lot of these guys will have investors, real estate investment trusts, these big IRA companies that are purchasing up properties as rental properties. Their connections in the Air Force and different things, military bases, contracting. You want to use somebody that does a lot of volume, because that is what your goal is. You are trying to buy, fix, flip, and you want to do it as fast as humanly possible. So you want somebody that does a high volume of properties. Okay. Now, when you go down to a contractor, you need to interview them. You want to see what work they've done, and I would ask you to get multiple prices from multiple people. Don't just have one plumber, have three plumbers. Don't just have one guy that can do a roof, have multiple guys that can do a roof. Don't have just one AC guy. Are you with me? So you want to, because what you're doing is you're putting a hedge of protection around yourself, because if something goes wrong, and something always goes wrong, it's not in your spreadsheet. Something is always going to go wrong, and you want to make sure that you don't just have one number. You have a second number, and you have a third number. You have people that you can call to make sure that just because you hit a hiccup, or that person has, that contractor, that painter, that plumber has something going on in their life and can't be there on time, you need to make sure that you have other people lined up that can take their place. Okay. Depending on which state you're in, you'll have a closing attorney or a title company. And then lastly, and most importantly, you'll have your investor or lender set up. And you'll already know what they expect from, if you're dealing with a bank or if you're dealing with an investor. You're going to know what they're going to want to send you, what kind of spreadsheet, and how they want to be presented information. For me, one of the things that I like doing is using Google Drive, and I share the information. I create a spreadsheet that talks about what the after repaired value is, what the market's like, what the repairs are going to be, to what degree we're going to repair it, and a lot of times I'll do a little note that just describes why I feel a certain way, one way or the other, about a certain area. I will also then a lot of times do a walkthrough video. So I'll take my phone or my GoPro camera, and I'll do a walkthrough on the property and point out all the things that are going to need fixing, good, bad, and ugly. And this is a good representation, and then within minutes, a lot of times by that evening, I can send that out to my different investors, and those that are interested can respond to me and say, hey, I want to be a part of this project with you, or no, I don't. But it allows them to look at the information almost in real time. As fast as I can upload pictures and videos, my investors are already seeing it, and they know whether or not they want to be a part of that deal or not. So it's a very, very powerful thing. We can talk about Google Drive on another call. But so today, you found your place. You've got your bestplaces.net. You've set up your criteria. You know what you're looking for. You now have your investment team together. You've got your realtor and your contractors and your closing attorney and your investor lined up, and you are ready to actually find a property. I know you're excited to hear me say that. So now we'll get into finding. And now, where do we find these properties? You can find them from FSBO, for sale by owner. There's several for sale by owner sites that you can go look at. Majority of these people that are putting them up for sale by owner, they're a lot of times going to be underwater. They are going to owe more on the property than the property is worth, and that's why they're not selling it through a realtor, and they're having to do special terms. A lot of times they get questioned about owner financing and all those kind of things. and you're really not going to be able to get a deep discount most of the time. I'm not saying there's not deals out there, but a lot of the times you won't be able to get a deep discount on a property because these are people's homes and they have emotional ties to the property and they know what they paid for it or they know what their family paid for it, and so they're emotional about it, and you don't want to deal with that. That's going to interfere with how smoothly your business runs. You're going to want to avoid for sale by owners for the most part. You can look into them, but for the most part, I avoid those. You can look on Zillow and Trulia. They, have properties listed. A lot of people also that are doing for sale by owners can go and use Postlets.com, which will allow people to post their house for free, and it'll send it out to over 100 websites, including Zillow and Trulia. But don't ever use their information to go by to try to figure out what you're going to sell your property for. That's not good at all. Number three, you're going to look at the MLS, the multiple listing service. I would tell you that if the property has already been listed on the MLS, it's already been picked over. And the reason I say that is because once it hits the MLS, that means that anybody in the world that has an internet connection can check that property out. And we want to try to get to those properties before that. Okay, so the place that I think is probably the best if you're going to do flips is REO or bank-owned properties. These are going to be the best ones. This is going to enable you to make offers to a bank. They are not impassioned about these properties. They didn't personally lay that tile in the bathroom. You know what I mean? So when you look at a $150,000 house and you make an offer of $40,000, well, had you made that offer to a little old lady, you're cutting her knees off. You feel terrible. There's this emotional thing that you're taking advantage of this person. But when it's a bank-owned property, you don't have that emotional connection, and neither do they. They, in fact, are not in the business of owning property. That's not what they want to do. What do banks do? Banks want to have loans on property. They want to make interest. They do not want to own property. So it is in their best interest to get rid of the property and keep it off of their books because that's not in their wheelhouse. That's not what their business was created to do. Now, if they want to have a mortgage or a line of credit on a property, that's great. But they don't want to own property because that's then a liability for them. Once you know what you're looking for and you have your criteria set and you have your investor in place, a lot of times you're going to contact a bank, and a lot of times you can also check when you pick your particular realtor. A lot of them get, if you'll look, there will be a few realtors that get all of one particular bank's listings. So if you're looking at a large bank like Chase Manhattan or something like that, they might have one realtor in that area that they send. Once they hit the market, they send all their listings to that particular realtor. Well, you can get in with that realtor and make sure that they let you know before they list them on the MLS. Say, look, I am a cash buyer with no contingencies, and this can be a fast deal. And man, that realtor would much rather work with you that is a cash buyer, that they're not going to be held up by all the federally backed loan regulations that are going to have all the inspections and everything. You're going to do your own inspections. And so you're going to be able to move 10 times faster on that property than somebody that is having to go through a bank to get their loan. Okay, so that's another thing that cash as an investor allows you to do. So you're going to call up that realtor and you're going to say, hey, I'm a cash buyer. Let me send you proof of funds, and that you'll get from your investor that'll show that you do have the money backing you. And you are then going to be able to move so much more clearly. And also, they are unimpassioned about it because you can say, look, this is my criteria. I'm looking for a 3-bedroom, 2-bath, 1,200 square feet to 1,800 square feet in this particular zip code, this particular style. I want ranch style home that is 1995 and later. You can set your criteria and they can go down their list, or they can just send you their entire list. But the bank-owned properties are going to be so much easier to deal with, and I encourage you to go that route when you're looking at flipping properties. You need to be careful of who you get your advice from. There are always people that are gladly going to give you advice, a lot of family, a lot of friends, a lot of people you know, and they'll tell you, well, you know what I would do? Well, I've flipped a house before, and this is what I did. I would encourage you to make sure that you have your knowledge in line, that you have talked to people that do this on a regular basis, and make sure that when you're getting advice from people, that you know who you're getting your advice from. Make sure that you're careful about that. Also, you need to be able to walk away. Do not get so excited about a deal that you do not have the intestinal fortitude to walk away from that deal. Being able to tell a bank or an individual, no, I'm sorry, that does not meet my criteria. I know people. I have realtor friends that will say, Matthew, if you could just come up $5,000, they won't budge. If you can just come up $6,000, $7,000, we can get this property. Well, their goal is different than mine. Their goal is to list the house for me. So they're going to get paid their same amount whether or not I list the whether or not I get the property or not. But for me, the difference in $5,000 and $6,000 is a lot of money. Depending on if that meets my criteria or not. Let me tell you, if you think that you're going to make, say, $50,000 off of a property, if you don't realize how fast $50,000 can evaporate, it can. When you pull back that piece of the wall and realize that there's termite damage that you didn't know about, or there's a foundation issue that you didn't know about, or tree roots from the large oak trees outside have grown into the pipes, and you're now going to have to replace all the plumbing, and you didn't catch that in your due diligence. There are always going to be things that are not caught, and you're always. I mean, no doubt, if you're going to have a house, I always pad my numbers, and then I always put in an additional 5 to 10% padding on top of that, and there's always something different on each house that can come up. I had a friend who missed an entire pool. Now, I know you think, well, how in the world could you buy a house and not do a pool? Well, this house, the yard was several acres, and everything was grown up, 4 and 5 feet high. It was just a field, and he literally walked around the property several acres, and never saw the pool. And it wasn't until after they purchased it that they said, oh, by the way, there's a pool that we just found. And thankfully he was able to recover that cost by filling it in. But still, you can miss things when you're doing these properties. So make sure that you have the ability to walk away, because it would be much better for you to walk away, wait another week, another 2 weeks, another month, another 3 months to find that proper deal than it would be to get into a bad deal, or a deal that is not as profitable as you need it to be. And always, always, never invest if you aren't 110% sure of your numbers. If you and I are doing a deal together, and you bring me a deal, and I ask you a question, and you don't have the answer, that's not good. Okay, so when I ask you what the vacancy rate is in that area, what's the rental rate in that area, what does the average person make in that area, what does the average family in that area, what can they afford? If I say, what are the days on market, how fast are properties moving, what properties are people buying, you need to be able to tell me those answers with confidence and back them up with actual numbers and data, and then we can move on together. So just be careful who you get your advice from. Don't be afraid to walk away, and make sure that you know your numbers. Alright, so let's run some numbers. You're going to have the after repaired value minus all of the cost, minus your profit. Do not forget profit. I have so many people that send me spreadsheets, and I'm like, where's the profit? They forget to put in their profit. This is going to then equal what your maximum purchase price can be. Okay? And the ARV equals the after repaired value. Okay, so continuing the example that we've used a couple of times, let's say that the property is $150,000. The after repaired value, this is the max retail price that you're going to be able to sell this property for, is $150,000. You've done your research, and you've got all your comps, and your realtor is telling you that this particular 3-bedroom, 2-bath house is maximum going to sell for $150,000. Okay, so that's your ARV. So you're going to say, okay, at max price, this is $150,000. I'm then going to look at the property and find out what all it needs. It needs paint, it needs carpet, it needs upgrades, whatever. And make sure when you're doing these, when you're doing the cost analysis, make sure that you're bringing the property up so that it is comparable to other properties that are for sale in the area. You don't want to overdo it, and you certainly don't want to underdo it, because those are going to be your competition. Okay, and make sure that you have built in there vacancy, that you have your repairs, that you have your holding costs, which will include the water and the power, not only all the construction costs, your material costs, the cost for your realtor to list it, all those things go into your cost. And then don't forget your profit. How much money do you want to make? You've already got your criteria and your goals set. So what was it that made it exciting for you? Was it 5,000? Was it 10,000? Was it 25,000 in this case? I don't personally want to do a flip and go through all this headache and potential risk without having a good payday. So I want at least $25,000 paid. Okay, so your after repaired value minus your cost minus your profit leaves you with $100,000 maximum purchase price. Now that's not going to be my first offer. You don't want to. They call it leaving money on the table. You don't want that to be your first offer. My first offer on this property might be $40,000, and you think, oh my goodness, well the bank or whoever is never going to accept $40,000. Well, you don't know. You can always go up on your price. You can't come back down though. Okay, so I would rather start at 40 and come up in $10,000 increments up to what my max value was, rather than starting at 100 and not be able to go anywhere. Okay, so you can say 40, 50, 60, 70, 80, and all that extra money. Say we got the property at 80,000. Do you think a $150,000 property you could probably get for 60, 80,000? Yes, absolutely you can. We were just looking. My realtor and I were just looking at a property a few weeks ago that was for sale for $135,000, and we were going to be able to get it for $64,000. So those are very doable, and there wasn't really much wrong with the house. All it needed was a roof, and which might sound like a big ticket item, but it is, in the grand scheme of things, it's just $5,000, some listing costs, and we could turn it back on the market pretty fast. So again, know what your numbers are before you go in. Now, if we ran these same numbers and we said for us to get this house, say it was a total gut, say that this place had been left vacant for so long and the kitchen had been torn out, wiring had been torn out, all the fixtures are torn out, people have stolen the copper, the place has been really taken advantage of, and windows are busted. I mean, the place is a complete gut. We're going to have to strip it to the studs and redo everything to bring it up to value. Well, what if that was, say, $80,000 to repair it? Well, 80 plus 25,000, that's 105. So we're going to have to buy this place for 45,000 or less. Well, it might not go for that. And that is why you have your numbers set, so that when the bank comes back and says, no, we can't do it at 45, we need you to come in around 75 or 80. And you're going to be able to say, you know what, this needs to go to somebody else because that doesn't fit in my wheelhouse. Now, one of the first things that's going to happen is when you have your realtor, that realtor is going to say, when you're trying to figure out what the comparable properties are, when you say, hey, what is this property maximum worth? The very first thing out of their mouth is going to say, oh, well, the properties in the area are listed for. You do not want that number. It doesn't matter what they're listed for, honestly. It matters what they're selling for. So say that they're listing for 185 all day long. Every property on that entire neighborhood is listed for 185, but they're actually selling for 165. Well, that's $20,000. That is important to know, right? So not only are you going to ask what are the days on market, but you're going to say what are they selling for. You pull me comps on properties that have recently sold in that area. Not what the list price is. That you might want to know that, but because you're going to want to have your max value underneath what the other properties are. That's going to help you sell faster. If every property in the neighborhood is listed for 185 and yet you can list yours fully restored, fully repaired for 175, then you're $10,000 under market and you still have all your spreads and going to make your money. Okay, so you need to determine this, not your banker, not your realtor. Okay, this is your money. This is your business. Okay, the banker and the realtor are tools that you use to achieve your goals. So I know that they are, they might be your friend and they are offering good advice, but in the end, it's your money and your investors' money, and your name and your neck is on the line, not them. If the house sells for $20,000 less than you thought it was going to sell, is the banker still going to get paid? Yes. Is the realtor still going to get paid? Yes. Are you going to get paid? Well, if you had to cut the price another $20,000 to get it sold, maybe not. Okay, so you want to determine what the actual value is of a property, not your realtor and not your banker. Remember, you're going to want to know everything that they know about the area, and you're going to use all of that information so that you can make a good decision on what you feel the properties are worth. Also, I'd like to encourage you to stay away from short sales. There's a lot that has to be done in a short amount of time. Things got to go really right to get short sales correctly. If that is not, certainly if you're a novice, I would not jump into short sales to begin with. I don't even do them. I try to stick to just flips and rental properties. It is just a lot of work for a lot of times. It ends up just being a lot of work. There's not a lot of return. There's a lot easier ways to make money than to do that. I'd also tell you to stay away from auction sites. Uh, None of those sites are going to give you the returns. When you get into these bidding wars with people, if you do go to an auction site and you're trying to get a property that way, make sure that you know what you're doing and you know your numbers, and that way it'll keep you from overbidding something because you'll already know. Because a lot of times they'll put things out there and it'll be a $150,000 house and they'll show it for $2,500, and you will be all excited and you'll start putting in bids. Well, then all of a sudden it'll jump up to 30 and then 50 and then 80 and then 105, and before long all your profit has been disappeared. Lastly, I'd say fish where the fish are. When you go to bestplaces.net, you're going to look at under housing, look at where the most people buy, and that's where you're going to want to buy. Okay, so if you're looking in a zip code and 30% of the houses purchased are between $100,000 and $150,000, well, guess where you should be? $100,000 to $150,000. It might sound nice to say, oh, I found this $800,000 house and it's going to be so great and we're working on it. And there's nothing wrong with that if you can do that. But the people that are potential buyers might be less than 1% of the population. And that's not what you're trying to do. You want as many people looking at your property as possible, because it's going to take this is a numbers game, okay? So you want as many people to see that property as possible. So if we were going fishing, we would use a fish finder, right? We would go and we would look on the fish finder, and where the groups of schools of fish were, that's where we're going to go fishing. Okay, so you want to do the same thing in real estate. Don't try to reinvent the wheel. You're not going to be smarter than everybody else. These are long-tested methods. Find where the fish are. Find where the people are already buying, and that's where you want to be. And that's where you want to buy your house. Well, guys, I hope you've enjoyed this last hour we've spent together. I know that you can feel like, man, so much information, and it really is. And this isn't even all the information. This is just the tip of the iceberg. There is a lot that goes in when you're talking about hundreds of thousands of dollars buying a place, repairing the place, hoping that you get the comps right, hoping that you get the repairs right, hoping that you find the right contractor and realtor in the right market in the right space, and make the right profit with the right investor. I mean, there's just so much that has to be in order to make money when you do flipping houses. So hopefully you've learned something over the last hour. Just know that this is not by far even hardly all the information at all. There's so much more that goes into it. I hope you'll utilize my website, MorrowInvest.com, as a tool. I have my book, my software that's for sale that will help you in your rental properties or investing or even flipping. The React Pro real estate software has some flips. It has all the documentation that you'll need. It's really a great tool for $350. And then my mentorship is $1,000, and that is fully refunded on our first deal. Just so that you know, when we start doing deals together, we'll be 50-50 partners, and you will be refunded your $1,000 entry fee. Of course, if you just take the information and don't do anything with it, you're out your $1,000. But hopefully, it'll be good information. You can also go to Investopedia if you want to know about these types of, what we use: fair market value, we use after repair value, we use the word comp. If you don't know what those words mean, start going to Investopedia, looking up those words, and it'll have suggestions of other words that people looked up that are similar to that in real estate investing. And you need to read and learn and soak up as much knowledge as you can. Renometer.com is just something that we use when we're trying to evaluate one of our exit strategies, trying to decide if it's a good rental market or not and what the average rents are. If we determined that the average person in that neighborhood could only afford $800, but yet the rent is going to be $1,000, that might not work for us. So you want to make sure that you've got your exit strategies. We talked about bestplaces.net several times, as well as the MLS, the multiple listing service. Those are going to be two websites that you are definitely going to use if you're going to be flipping houses and talking with realtors. And I hope that you will understand that, again, there's a lot more information to come. This is just 1 hour that we've spent together, and I have 20 years worth of investing knowledge to try to share with you. So you can't by any means get it all in one little hour webinar. So I hope you've enjoyed your time. If you have any questions, please send those questions to morrowhomes@gmail.com, or look us up on MorrowInvest.com. Like our Facebook page, like our YouTube page, share. If you have any questions, let me know, and I'll be glad to answer them. Hope you have a great day. Bye-bye.